So at first, I like to start with the good things in IT. So things that I like about IT. So basically, IT can be life changing. So meaning that this is one of those industries that you can quickly get a high pay raise. Let's say, like for me, for instance, I went from working at Advanced Auto doing retail to getting in the IT industry. Then within a couple of years, like I said, you're able to move up. Now, hopefully, you move up faster than I did. So if you know my story, you know it took me a while to move up. So, but IT is one of those fields that I think could be very life changing, especially if you're someone who maybe you didn't go to college, or maybe you took my route, you went to a community college. But basically, IT is one of those things, or maybe you're someone that just went out and got the certification, and then you landed your foot in the door, which going from whatever position you're going from into that industry could have been a pay raise just with that move. But then as you start moving up within the ranks, moving up to different positions, it ended up being a pretty hefty pay increase. So IT, in my eyes, like I said, it can be life changing if you manage it right. And then also it can create financial freedom. So a lot of times I know plenty of people that work for a lot of companies, and a lot of times they get bonuses. So that's something I never experienced. So if you want to give me a bonus, somebody point me in the right direction. But basically, a lot of companies out here, they give bonuses, where I know some folks where, they may get a yearly bonus of at least 10 grand or more, or they may get a yearly bonus of 5 grand. So that bonus, you still get paid your regular paycheck too. So, and then they have all kind of investment opportunities. So this is somewhere where, let's say that you didn't get in the investment route, or you didn't start investing early. This is a field that you can get into where you can possibly get that big pay increase to where now you can advance. You can now invest and try to make up for what you didn't do in the past. So IT can also create financial freedom. So this is one of those industries, as I talked about, like I said, you get a pretty hefty pay raise with most moves. Well, basically what this does is it allows you to get ahead. So far, a lot of us, we're in what they call the rat race, where, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'm robbing this company here to pay off this bill over here. But IT is one of those things where, if you get that big pay raise, or if you end up moving your way to a big pay increase, it's one of those ways that you can start to get ahead. You can start working on paying off debt. Then once you pay off debt, you're working on investing more, things of that nature. So where a lot of companies even have a lot of investment opportunities that you could do. Some of them you work for may even have a stock where, I would often say those companies with the ticker symbols. So like I said, they could have a ticker symbol where they give you a set price that you can buy that stock at. Let's say if the stock is trading at $25, they may say for all employees, you can buy this stock for $15. And then at the end of the year, you can sell that stock for whatever the price is currently. So let's say you bought 1,000 shares, and that's just small because I'm not really good at math. But like I said, let's say you bought 1,000 shares at that $15. Then at the end of the year, let's say that stock is trading at 50. So now you can sell those 1,000 shares at $50, which is a automatic pay increase, which most folks, if you invest, though, a lot of times you want to hold it long term. But a lot of companies do offer this. And then as well as offering the stock options and allowing you to buy certain shares or whatever within the company, a lot of them also give bonuses. A lot of the publicly traded companies, I like to say, the ones that have that ticker symbol, a lot of times they may give pretty decent bonuses where, let's say at the end of the year, your bonus may be 10 grand for the year. That's on top of whatever you're still making. So this here allows you that chance to get ahead of the game. That's why I like to call it, working your way to get ahead of the game. Once you get ahead of the game, now you can start taking that extra money and then start investing it, which in long term ends up creating that financial freedom. And then another thing I like about IT is very versatile, meaning that anyone can get into IT. So you don't necessarily have to go get a degree, which that's also always helpful, but you see all kind of people from different walks of life get into IT. So some may have a degree, some may not have a degree, some may go get a certification, some may not go and get either. Some may just be working at a company and just so happen a help desk position opens up. they moved to that help desk position. Then after that, they started moving their way up the ladder in the IT industry. So you got all walks of life that you can see here. So that's one thing I like about it. Like I say, I didn't necessarily have to go out and go get a 4-year degree or anything past that. I went and got a 2-year degree. But like I said, I know some of my colleagues and things like that where they didn't go and get no degrees. So it's one of the things where the playing field is there for everyone. The only thing is you get in what you put out of it. So if you putting in that work, a lot of times something good will come from it. So it's one of the things you get what you put in, or you get out of it what you put into it. But like I said, anyone can get into this industry, which is another point that I like about IT. And then the next thing I like about the IT industry is this is for all my people that got that entrepreneurial mindset, if I said it correctly. But this is for those folks. So once you get into IT, you start seeing a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities that come with it, because once you get into it, let's say you learn this skill set, you could take that same skill set that you just learned and go out and start your own thing. If you're good at software development, you're coding, you're creating apps. Basically, if you're working in IT, let's say you work for a company, y'all create some kind of security app or something like that. Then basically, nothing's stopping you from going out on your own and starting that same thing. Now, if it's just you, this may take a while, but basically in the IT industry, this is where you start seeing different kind of opportunities. Where for me, before getting into the IT industry, the only business I really knew of that I would like to do was club promotions. You hear me talk about promoting parties and things like that. So, which was one of my side things I did years ago. But basically, when I got into the IT industry, I started learning about other opportunities. Like, okay, I never really knew behind the scenes of someone that owned a computer repair store. I never knew that. I used to think that, the only thing they're doing is repairing computers. When you look at the back end of it, a lot of times that local computer repair store have contracts with different businesses in the area to where they provide those businesses IT support, which in hand means that they're getting paid way more than just you coming in and they're fixing your PC, they're adding RAM and things like that. So once I got into it, I started seeing the back end. So this is where if you got the skill set in a high demand area, let's say you're doing something within the cloud, cybersecurity, a lot of times you can take that skill set and start your own thing, or maybe start your own thing and then hire out the talent for it. So, but this is one thing I like about the IT industry also, is that you have opportunities, and you have a lot of opportunities once you get in and you learn the ins and out of tech. And then the last thing I like about the IT industry is, for the most part, it's not manual labor. So for me, like I said, I came from a job where I call it a mill. I like to, just my country accent. That's what I always call it, a mill. But basically, I came from a place, a warehouse where we made car carpet. So the carpet that you have in your Honda Accord, your Acura, things like that, we made that car carpet. So basically, that was a job where I was working third shift. And like I said, third shift was rough. I was working third shift, coming in Sunday night, getting off Friday morning. Some days I may not even have that Friday night or Saturday night off. Sometimes we might have to work what you call 6 and 7 days. For some reason, a lot of people used to be glad to work 6, 7 days, but I was younger. So when I came in here at 6 and 7 days, it about brought tears to my eyes. I did not like 6 or 7 days. So, but basically I came from somewhere where, even though this wasn't hard manual labor, but it was manual labor. It was manual labor where I had to look at the machines. I had to make sure they're running. If they break, I got to go and fix the machine, or try to fix the machine, or call to somebody over to fix the machine. And basically, the machines I'm running, they're basically running yarn, balls of yarn. So the yarn comes out smaller and smaller as it gets to each machine, and eventually it goes to another department, and they wind it up on spools and things like that. So basically, this job would be considered a manual labor job. Now, it wasn't in a lumber yard, which is maybe more manual labor, but once I got into the IT industry, those days was long gone. So once I got into the industry, most of my jobs was basically sitting down, talking on the phone. Now, where I didn't have that manual labor, I did have that mental labor where, some days you're working on so many issues, when you leave out of that job, you just get a headache. I was getting headaches. I thought I needed glasses. 10 years later, come to find out I did need glasses. But basically, like I said, it wasn't manual labor. Most of my jobs were sitting down. Every once in a while, once I got in desktop, you're on the go, but still you're not doing nothing manual. And then in networking, you might have to go replace some equipment. But at the end of the day, it still beats that old school manual labor.